Hey, everybody. Welcome to Chasing the God Shot. My name is Bubba. On this podcast, we talk to people in the coffee industry about their experience with the God Shot. Today, we have the lovely Madeleine with us. So thank you for being here, Madeleine.
Thank you for having me.
First question is, what do you do in the coffee industry?
I do a little bit of everything, but I guess my official title is owner of Pacific Coffee Research in Hawaii. And yeah, like I said, I do a little bit of everything. I train people, I lead classes, I do a lot of quality analysis for coffee producers and cupping and training in cafes and restaurants, and also do some like equipment maintenance and installation.
Didn't know that.
All over the place.
That's a lot. That's a lot of hats. So what would your definition of a God shot be?
To me, a God shot is that coffee, that espresso, specifically talking about God shot as espresso, but I do think it can be like a coffee that just kind of opens your eyes a little bit to what is possible with coffee and is just this sensory experience that makes you wonder what is going on in this cup, and is probably something that is a new experience too, something that's a little bit surprising and pleasant, and makes you wonder, makes you be more curious about like, what happened to this before I started drinking this.
Interesting. So, do you remember your first experience with the God shot?
Yes, and as I said, I do think it can be a coffee, and so I don't always just order espresso in cafes and places. I will honestly order black coffees a lot more often, and I'd say that my first experience was this kind of just like, eye-opening experience. And I had just a little bit of context. I had been traveling in Spain and Portugal and Morocco for about 3.5 months. And there was not good coffee in my time in any of those
Really?
places.
I didn't know that.
All really dark roast, like European, old school European style coffee. And I had landed in London. After 3.5 months being in these other countries, I was in London and I was staying at a hostel across the street from the Borough Market, I think it's called. Okay. And I went to this coffee stand there that's like a full-on coffee bar by Monmouth Coffee. And they were doing all pour-overs. It was all pour-overs, and they had, I don't even know how many different coffees.
Interesting, like a little kiosk kind of thing?
It was like an actual coffee bar, like a little indoor space, but you had all of these different options laid out in front of you. And I went to go order my coffee, and I was walking down the street after that, drinking this coffee, and it was an Indonesian coffee from Sumatra, from the region of Takengon.
That is super interesting. An Indonesian?
And
wow.
And I just had this, this is an amazing coffee. And I think a lot of it was like, I haven't had a good coffee in such a long time. And this is such an excellent coffee. And I stopped because I was walking around London, and I stopped on one of the bridges, put my cup up there. Monmouth put like little stickers on your cups that gave you the origin and information on the coffee. And I took a picture of it on the railing of this bridge, and we'll never forget that. That's Indonesian Sumatra Takengon coffee
burnt in your mind.
Burnt in my mind. And I'll say it felt really wild later, because I think it was four years later or so, I went to visit coffee farms in that exact region of
That's pretty cool. Wow, that's super crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, now that you say that, I remember traveling in through Italy and stuff like that, and Paris, and that the coffee is rather darker in Europe compared to here in the States and stuff like that. Interesting.
And I know that it's changed a lot since then, and there are a lot of different like small roasteries coming out and stuff like that. But when I was there, it was very dark roast, super traditional European style coffees, and I was just like so over it after 3 months of that. And in Morocco, there really isn't coffee at all, so it was all just tea, and that was too. But they sweeten the hell out of their tea. It's so sugary too, and so like finally just having this kind of coffee experience that I wanted. That was like the first time that I was like, this is amazing, and I'm so thankful for coffee, and the person who made this did such an excellent job. And yeah, it made me stop and want to capture that moment.
That's pretty cool.
You know?
Yeah, it's a moment in time. So how did that experience change or like impact your career, your journey?
I don't know how that impacted my career journey. I think maybe, especially because your reaction too was like, oh, an Indonesian coffee, that's surprising, right?
Traditionally it'd be a lot darker.
Yeah, well, they tend to be a little bit less, I guess, like less surprising to people, right? You're not necessarily the first thing that people think of as like an amazing epic coffee. And I reflect on that now, thinking that I need to approach coffees just in my professional life, just like for what they are, versus having some kind of preconceived notion of what they might be. Yeah. Or, oh, it's coming from this part of the world, it's going to taste like XYZ. It's coming from this other part of the world, or it's
interesting. It's a little humbling.
This certain way, you know? Yeah, kind of like a humbling experience, and just like the recognition that coffees can be excellent anywhere, and coffee can be terrible anywhere.
That's true. Yeah.
It is so dependent on a million different variables.
That's actually pretty cool. Yeah, that's Indonesian. That's so. What are some roasters or coffee shops that you think people might be able to find their next gotcha based off of your experience or any like research that you've done?
Yeah, well, so I have a couple of different places.
Awesome.
One of my other like actual god shots, it was an espresso that I had, and I remember sipping it and being like, this is incredible, I need to have this more. It was at a cafe actually in St. Louis, Missouri, and the coffee company is called Blueprint Coffee, and I still will always remember they have given me one of my best espressos ever, and it was an El Salvador coffee. You
remember the actual origin too? Wow.
And single origin El Salvador. I wish I remembered the farm, because I think they did include that on the coffee bag. But yeah, it was just like an excellent shot of espresso. And every time I'm in St. Louis, I make sure that I go visit them.
That's a spot. That's pretty cool.
So definitely there. And Proud Mary Coffee. They have
Proud Mary.
Yeah. So they're in Portland in the United States, but they're originally from Australia. And in Australia, they're in Melbourne, and they have their main cafe that's like very busy, and they have food and all of that stuff. But they also, like, down the street and around the corner is their coffee like tasting bar. Ooh. And it's called Auntie Peg's, and you go there just to get an espresso. You get espresso or Americanos, long blacks as they say in Australia, and that's it. There's no extra fancy things going on. You're just there to taste the coffee.
That's pretty cool.
I've also had some really excellent coffees there.
That's awesome to experience the essence of what that is. That's pretty legit. And it's closer to me, so I like that. Shoot, just take a quick flight up to the West Coast. So, awesome. Well, I think the only other thing is like where can people find you? Like to get in contact with you if they want to get a hold of you.
Yeah, they can find me in Hawaii. If you're ever in Hawaii, come to Hawaii Island and find me at Pacific Coffee Research, or just online. Our socials are pcr.coffee for any social channel. That's what we are. And anything related to coffee, I like to keep, I'm the one who's managing our social channels. So
really?
It's me who will respond to you. And so, yeah, I'm always happy to have people reach out there.
Cool. Awesome. So we'll make sure the information's in the show notes. Madeleine, thank you again for spending some time with us and kind of chatting about your experience with Gotcha. We really appreciate it. You have a good rest of your day. And yeah, thanks for coming.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Bye. See you later.
Bye, Bubba.